Hey, it's Jose Galison. You're watching No Way Jose. You can find me on the No Way Jose YouTube channel, also on all the major audio podcatchers and Odyssey as well. Credit to Justin Campbell at jcamp1521 on Twitter. He's going to do the intro. He does a lot of other work for podcasters. So if you want an intro, someone to do an intro for you, or cut clips, or whatever, he does it all. Hit him up if you're a big podcaster and you're looking for someone to help you out with those needs. Today, my guest is Sal the Agorist. We're continuing our live reading series. As always, I remind you guys what the shtick is here. It's the 19th. If you're watching the 19th, it's a live stream. It's only available today. It'll go back up public roughly about a week or so later, just whenever, depending on how the schedule works. And if you want to have access to it in the meantime, you need to be a patron or go on my Odyssey, because it'll be on my Odyssey. You don't have to pay for it. But the lowest level for the Patreon is $2. That'll get you access to it in the meantime. It's patreon.com. It's just NoWayJose 2020. The highest level is $20, and those are my sponsors. And I read them off every episode. My sponsors are CD McRae of the Whiskey and Tea podcast, which she's got some personal stuff going on right now, some crazy stuff. I haven't had a chance to talk to her and follow up with her about what's going on. I figured I'd give her a little bit of space for the moment, but she's got some stuff going on. They have a GoFundMe for her right now. She's trying to move to Florida because I guess she had some crazy personal stuff happen. I won't go into that here, but I'll try to see if I can find it and probably drop in the link so you guys in the whenever I drop this public, so you can donate to her if you like to. It has all the information in the GoFundMe as well. But yeah, definitely. Or if not, hit me up on Twitter in the meantime if you are watching it now live, and I can find you the link for you and send it to you. I also have Jeremy, who's someone I just had on recently. We just talked about a slew of topics, so you can check out that episode if you'd like. But he has an Etsy at etsy.com/shop/raising liberty. Follow him on Twitter at Jeremy Rhymes. I also have Mikkel Thorup of the Expat Money Show. His thing is he helps people move to freedom, and specifically when it comes to moving from one nation to another. So that's if you're someone who has the means to do something like that and you just want someone to help you out in that journey, go for it. I mean, I'm all for moving to where things are more conducive. And yeah, like I said, that's patreon.com, NoWayJose 2020. Today, like I said, we're doing the live reading of the new Libertarian Manifesto. We're continuing. We're basically at the ass end. We're going through critiques now. We are on the second part of Konkin's response to Rothbard, because in the back of this book, he got a few notable libertarians at the time to give their take on it, and had a little bit of back and forth. The most notable being the Rothbard one, which we're covering right now. Just so you guys know what's going on, I think I might be having Mark on next week. Mark Claire was supposed to be in this week, but we're keep rescheduling. But yeah, that should be interesting. We'll be touching on a lot of his new change, kind of coming more in line with like me and Sal a little bit in certain ways, which wasn't really a surprise, but was kind of crazy. It made a big splash when it happened, because it was, I mean, I already kind of had known that anyways. All right, Tower Gang, make sure to go follow them. Follow them on Odyssey, because we got nuked off YouTube. Next month, we're going into our Jonesing for June event with conspiracy stuff. We're probably going to end up with having like Monica Perez, maybe do like a Four Horsemen thing, maybe a separate other Dawson episode. I don't know. We haven't got completely planned out, but it should be fun. Go to TopLobsta.com. Use Jose at checkout for 10% off. He has the best merch. If you want to get Naturals Capitalist, No Way Jose, Liberty Lockdown. If you want to get Tower Power Hour merch, just it goes on. Definitely go check him out. He also has other cool designs that have nothing to do with podcasts. Definitely, go hit him up. And with that, let's get Sal in here. Let's get this cracking. Try to knock it out. Hey, what's up, man?
Yo, what's up, man?
Hey, not much, dude. How you been?
Good, man. Mark Claire really has been on a tear, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, it wasn't even that. That's why I find it so weird, this whole thing, because everyone we're like, oh my god, he's on a tear. I mean, he sort of is now. I guess he's more like unleashed, but
I like it. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know if you kind of followed the, I guess, drama, but it was weird because it seemed contrived to me, because it was like all he did was say what we kind of already knew for a while, because he'd kind of alluded to it multiple times. So if you paid attention to him at all, you already kind of knew where he was at. So it made no sense to me.
I'm completely naive of what happened, but
Yeah.
I don't know. He's been really giving them hell for like politics and shit, which I'm all about.
Yeah.
I did his show when like there was drama with the Mises Caucus, and I was surprised that I thought it was going to be more like argumentative, but he was really like on board. I was surprised.
No, it was like a week or two ago. I think he posted in some Mises Caucus Facebook group or something, and I think he was just responding because someone pointed out that he liked a tweet that was kind of like, I think he liked one of Pete's tweets or something, so not something that we necessarily. Yeah, which I mean, it wasn't something that we necessarily would agree with, probably, but it still was just like silly. And then people called him out for it, and he was kind of like, "Yeah, I don't really think Libertarian Party, the LPMC, is really that useful. I don't know what to tell you." Like, he kind of is. He's kind of. It seems to me. I'll talk to him about it later, but it seems to me he's kind of in the spot where I'm kind of like, if you're gonna go the politics route, you might as well go where there's actually something to be gained politically. And if you're not, then don't do it. Like otherwise, so like that's one of my main points. Not that I think you should go the political route, but like if you're going to, like, why would you do this useless political thing? Like, I mean, that's kind of my stance. Like,
But dude, Reno is going to be so much fun.
I mean, it'll be
Reno's gonna
fun.
be such a blast.
I mean, I've told you I go to LP events. If I had an unlimited well of money, I'd go to Reno, but I just can't justify going to Vegas just to hang
But
out.
that's all it is, though. That's all it is. It's just a good time. Like none of the attendees actually think that more liberty is going to be produced from them all getting drunk in Vegas on the weekend, right? That's absolutely absurd. But that's where the money and the energy and resources of the LP continue to go to this day, and that's why we suck.
Well, I mean, to be fair to them, I typically try to steel man them a little bit. I think they think that they're going to get this takeover, and they're going to have strong messaging, and I think they probably will to some extent. I just think it's going to go to shit over time.
Of course,
it's kind of this like short-term
destined for
thing.
shit.
So yeah, so there is something too. Just like Ron Paul always comes up in this discussion. Don't get me wrong, he definitely spoke to a lot of people, but I think it also got talked a lot of people into going the political route. I think not to say that it was overall negative or anything. It's just kind of this idea that like, and I like to equate it to gambling. It's like, cool, yeah, you might hit a jackpot every now and then, but it's like, I mean, overall, if you're playing like I guess just a casino overall is not good. But I use the example of like money slots. Like if all you ever do is money slots, you're going to statistically lose overall. But like, yeah, sure, you may have a jackpot, a decade ago. It's like, okay, cool.
Right, right.
Like, sure, I guess, yeah. I mean, yes, you do have wins occasionally, but the trend doesn't seem to go that way in general. So, and it's kind of like my thing is it feels like you're trying to fight incentives almost, but it's like, yeah, you can for a period of time, but it'll over the long period, it'll go back to the incentives point.
That's the whole thing. I had like if you noticed, I had a tweet or a Facebook post where I don't know if you've noticed all the infighting has been going on. It's all within the LP, the Mises Caucus, or like it's cross party, like the Republican right-wing libertarians versus the LPMC. Agorist, it's not like that. With Agorist, like you have to work with other Agorists productively. You have to cooperate with them in order to produce a product or a service that you can bring to market that other people are going to be willing to trade their hard-earned paycheck for. Yeah. So it's like in politics, like you're naturally divided and you're naturally fighting, whereas in agorism, it's exactly the opposite. You're naturally incentivized to work together. And I think it's like just, obviously, you know this shit. It's like part and parcel of the ideology. It just draws out what you and I have been preaching for a long time. But I'm sorry, I know we have a lot to cover today. I don't want to.
No, yeah. I did want to touch on one point because while we're on it, it is something that I find to be very weird and kind of creepy to see in this movement, because it's like everyone always shits on the duopoly, but and it kind of it really shows its head here with the Mark situation, which like I said, it was a whole to do over nothing, but. One of the big critiques everyone gave him was like, well, why are you doing this right now? We're going to Reno in like a week or whatever. Why are you doing it right now? And it's like, it reminds me so much of like, I know when I used to be more of like a big L libertarian, like I remember talking to my parents and they'd be like, say with the Trump presidency, like I remember they would like agree with me in so many critiques of him. And they'd be like, but like, maybe like don't be blasting that out and saying that to a lot of people because like we're about to be the election. Like you don't want to, like, come on, like do you really want to like? I mean, they're gonna vote for the other guy. Like, is that what you want? And like, I mean, not necessarily. Like, I guess I kind of don't care, but like at the same time, it's like, I guess yeah, sure, in a certain sense, maybe at that given time, it'd be like I prefer they vote for this person over that person, but still, like, what? So I should just not say what I think because it might affect your vote.
Dude, we're all gonna have a good time in Reno. What are you doing, man? You're ruining the good time. We're all gonna get drunk and then like party, hit the slots. What are you doing? You're ruining it, man. That's what's going on, man. It's not about liberty. It's about them.
Yeah, and it's always like, well, why don't you just focus on your own thing? And it's like, well, I don't know, because I'm interested in this and I have something to say about it. I don't know, like you, like,
because we're
it's not
trying
like I'm
to
beating you with a stick. Like,
I know that's the whole. Yeah, I know. It's not like you have like a gun. You're like you will be an agorist. It's like we're just trying to like convince you using logic and reason, but like that is offensive to them.
yeah.
I don't know.
Whatever. And it is always like, why are you trying to break people down or whatever? And I'm like, I'm not necessarily. I'm just talking to you. If you take it that way, okay.
If you take it that way, this probably means there's something wrong with your ideology.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's go ahead and get into it because we do have we are trying to finish this out because I think we have like 11 pages left, which that's easily an episode, but I don't want to do the shit where we do 6 or do like 7 and then you have 4 pages to cover in the next episode, which is like nothing. I'm trying to keep these like contained to like subjects because I'd like to. I don't want to.
The problem is Sam packs so much good material into one paragraph. It's so difficult to just breeze right through it. But like I said, I'll try my best to shut up as much as possible.
I mean, no, don't do that. I mean, say what you gotta say. I mean, worst case scenario, if anything, if we start getting too deep into it, it's almost like, well, you might as well. You almost just might as well just lean into it, and then we only do like 5 or 6 pages and finish it. Do a shorter episode.
Dude, I'll come back on. I don't care. I'll come back on a million times.
Yeah, we still have like probably what do we have? We have Robert LaFair, so that's 2 episodes probably at least right there.
I'm so happy we're gonna read Bob LaFave on a libertarian podcast. It's about time he got some fucking action. What
and then we have
thinker,
Filthy
LaFave.
Pierre Strauss, which I mean, we may even be able to cover that one in one episode. Literally his critique and the response because they're both super short. So we have at least probably 3 episodes left, not including today's. But yeah, all right, let's get into it. I don't know if you remember where we were at. He was kind of going into. He was critiquing Rothbard.
This is page 103 for the audience, right? Just to clarify.
103 of the edition that doesn't have the Agorist class theory in it. So for those, because there's two versions of New Libertarian Manifesto. I'm not sure if it makes a difference with the page numbers. I'm unsure. Maybe the font's different, makes it different. I have no idea. No. But yeah, he were just going over some of his critiques. They were talking about how like Rothbard kind of critiqued the aspect of like, you're ignoring the working class, and like me and you both and Konkin were like,
I know.
Like I remember me and you pointed out like when in Rothbard's critique that like what that's literally the exact opposite. Like if anything, I feel like working class people, generally speaking, the type of jobs they work are actually more conducive to entrepreneurial endeavors.
So much better represented by agorism. So much.
Whereas if you're a brain surgeon, like you may have a hard time, doing that job on the gray or black market. I'm sure you could find ways to a little bit to some extent.
I'd hire you.
Yeah, I'd be like, maybe you could somehow, I don't know, skirt around the insurance policy aspect. I don't know. But it's almost like
I'm sure it's been done.
Yeah, it's like the more hoity-toity or ecology of a job you have, the harder it is to do it outside of it, which makes sense. Those are the ones that probably have more what's the word I'm looking? Regulations and stuff on them.
The more tightly regulated, exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into it. All in that list are at least 20% counter-economic, and many are over 50%. If they do not take the first step towards economic liberty by becoming independent contractors, then their employer does. Tax-free tips for waitresses, off-the-book illegal alien factory workers, agents handling it for others, writers, and so on. I challenge Rothbard to find any legitimate economic field not serving the state that cannot be counter-economized. 10 that cannot be counter-economized without organizational or technological innovation, or 100 that cannot be counter-economized without significant gain in organizational efficiency and profit. Konkinism has plenty to say to everyone who is not a statist. I had a thought there. That cannot be counter. Yeah, and once again, I say this all the time. I do think the problem that Rothbard was kind of suffering from, and once again, I've said I'm not sure how deeply he read this before he critiqued it, but I think this is a common thing. A lot of ANCAPs and a lot of people who critique agorism fall into the binary thinking, which Konkin's not applying a binary field. He's not saying that any of these workers are like they have to be 100% in the thing. Like when he says that cannot be counter economized, he can literally just mean, let's say with like waitresses, that like a portion of their check is not tracked by the state. Like, and that right there is counter economic. Like, that may not be entirely counter economic, but is to some extent. Sorry, you gonna say something?
No, I mean, I just, obviously Sam is on the money here. The state is so extensive, it protrudes into all of our lives so heavily that there's no profession that exists that you can't, take up on the black or gray market somehow.
Yeah. Rothbard's claim that political action is superior and preferable to civil disobedience in lightening the levy is an incredible distortion of history coming from the one who converted me to revisionism. There has never been a single repeal of taxation or significant cut, save a few minor ones in recent years for purposes of Keynesian tinkering or Lafferite, less gets more, that did not result from massive refusal to pay or the threat of such disobedience. Probably best example is what, like in the 30s, 40s, whatever, like before the Great Depression, when they had the really high tax rates for the rich. That's where no one actually paid that. They found ways to go around it. But anyways, furthermore, political action has resulted in shifts in the tax base and higher total plunder, such as the infamously spectacular debacle of Proposition 13 here in California.
What was that again? That was like the cancer thing, wasn't it?
Prop 13?
I don't know.
Was that weed?
I don't know.
Prop 13 was that early, was it? I felt like it was later, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean,
someone's probably watching like these idiots.
I feel like Prop 13. I remember Prop 13 was big. I just don't know what it is. I think it's the weed one, but I guess I have a hard time believing when he wrote this, which is.
It could be.
Maybe. I guess.
No, weed wasn't legal back then.
No.
Not in California. No, it's too early.
Yeah, I mean, because this is written in the late 80s, early 90s, something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Early 80s.
Oh, not early 80s. Yeah, because one of these, I just looked back. The Rothbard critique was written in 1980. So
yeah.
So yeah, I highly doubt that was weed, but I don't know. Rothbard's agreement with Pyro Egon is ungraciously spurned by Mr. Egon, who informs me that what he sees as my political-like activity will not generate more entrepreneurs, but the entrepreneurs are indeed makeable. Rothbard in subsequent correspondence added he believes entrepreneurs are born and not made, or at least not makeable. Which I don't remember. I do vaguely remember Rothbard saying some weird shit like something like that. I mean, I'm not entirely sure if Konkin is completely representing it accurately, but I do remember that was kind of the spirit a little bit of what he was saying.
These guys had argued over what an entrepreneur means, like not Konkin, but like the Austrian economists going way back, like all the way to like Mises, and then Israel Kirzner, and then Peter Klein and Per Byland are to this day arguing over like what an entrepreneur actually does. Like, are they a promoter? Are they a marketer? Are they an innovator? Are they a creator? And I think that's just sort of like,
I would just say yes.
That sort of ambiguity is what he's talking on, right?
Yeah. Successful entrepreneurs are not going to be agoric theoreticians like Konkin, but successful entrepreneurs, period. What do they need with Konkin and his group? How about
me?
Yeah.
What about me?
How about successful? No, you're good. Successful businessmen are not going to be economic theoreticians like Dr. Rothbard, but successful businessmen, period. What do they need of Dr. Rothbard, his group? Or successful engineers are not going to be physics theoreticians like Dr. Einstein. Or successful writers are not going to be English instructors like Professor Strunk. Need I belabor the Rothbard fallacy?
Right. Yeah, but see, this is like Konkin at his like peak Konkin right here. Konkin's a chemist. He's like highly steeped in logic. That's how he found economics. He is just dismantling Rothbard's argument, which is incredible to me because Rothbard, I always thought was the master of logic. But then to watch Konkin pick him apart like this,
yeah,
I mean, what an easy fallacy to go after. It's just a terrible mistake on Rothbard's part.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get why he. I mean, really, there was a lot in that thing that I was very much like kind of whoa.
I mean,
reading through the part, but
I'm not like successful. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like super rich or anything, but I'm living. I'm paying my bills, and I am an entrepreneur. I'm not like a professional theoretician, but I like to theorize about agorism. So I don't know what this guy's talking about, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, there definitely is something to the aspect of like, yes, entrepreneurialism should be encouraged and be given I don't know, theories or and stuff along those lines to have resources to help them get along in that way, as opposed to just be like, be an entrepreneur. Like,
yeah, right. It's almost like Rothbard is thinking to himself, like, people who are entrepreneurs aren't going to adopt agorism. But like, little did either of them know that here we are in 2022 with like a growing agorist community of counter-economic entrepreneurs, just like Sam envisioned. So
yeah. I would almost argue that an entrepreneur that does not, whether knowing or unknowingly, embrace counter economics, maybe not agorism because that has more akin to it, is probably not going to do very well in entrepreneurial.
True. Good
like,
point. That's a very good point.
Like, if you're not in some ways, maybe not necessarily cheating or finding loopholes, or like the idea that you're going to be an entrepreneur and do everything by the book, how it's supposed to be,
good luck,
is insane. Yeah.
Good luck.
I'm sure most entrepreneurs probably have the mentality of, forgiveness, not permission kind of deal, which is fine. Like, and you know what? That's completely reasonable, because in today's age, everything's so highly regulated that like for example, like I've said before with my cat business, obviously I do everything above board, but to be honest, I don't even know all the fucking laws that go in place with it. Like I don't know how the fuck I could be compliant, and if I,
but who cares? That's the
for
whole
legal
thing.
reasons, a joke. Yeah, but who cares? If I ever got busted,
free
then
people
I would be
don't care.
And if I ever got busted, I mean, like, how much are they really gonna? I mean, not that I'm doing anything wrong, but like, or legally wrong, but like, say I was, like, if I ever got busted, it'd be like, okay, like, or it would be a situation like, okay, well, what's the fine here? What do I got to pay you? And then there, I'd be a little bit more aware at that point of that rule and maybe figure out how to skirt around it, or if I really got to, maybe comply with it, because it's like, well, it's better than getting fucked. So,
and that's the whole thing. It's like, free people don't ask for permission. Yeah. Like, we're not going to be like, oh, hey, I have this business. How do I register it? Who do I have to pay my fees to? And how do I bring myself into compliance? We don't ask that. Like, it's just insane to me. That's what slaves do. It's slave behavior.
Yeah. And it's just not even really reasonable, which is one thing. I think it may have been Agorist Primer that Rothbard or Konkin pointed out, the idea that, like, I think he was pointing out and how, like, if you price your product too low, you can get fined. If you price it or too high, it's illegal. If you price it exactly along the lines of your competitors, and now you're engaged in a cartel, and that's illegal. And it's like,
exactly.
The idea that you're going to wait and make sure everything's above board and everything is just a little bit ridiculous. But
every successful entrepreneur I know, I can't think of one that doesn't cut corners when they're able to. I mean, digital nomads that I know, friends of mine who are agorists that live in other countries that do this. Jack Spirko, not that I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything illegal, of course, but like, these are all proof of what you're saying.
Yeah. Rothbard's position on libertarians being dichotomized from entrepreneurs is absolutely monstrous to me.
Same.
Libertarian has nothing to do with what one says, but with what one does. Hence, libertarians must be more trustworthy and have a more rational understanding of the market, or they are not libertarians regardless of what they beguilingly profess.
So this is like, that's something that I really didn't understand until I read it in, like, I don't know if it was Mises, or it might have been like even more nerdy, like super nerd. It might have been like Kersner or something, where like I think the part that I read was like, it might have been a conversation with Block or Bile, I don't remember. But like, the idea is that the entrepreneur is the motor of the economy. It's the entrepreneur who allocates resources, right? It's up to the entrepreneur to determine where value goes. Like, for example, we have this baby formula shortage going on. So like, any normal thinking entrepreneur is thinking to themselves, hey, how do I get some baby formula into my local grocery food store right now? But you can't, because the FDA is up your ass. So it's like, I don't know. I forgot where I'm going with all this, but
red market activity idea: abduct Abby Shapiro and use her for the product.
That's not agorism.
That's red market. I'm just saying it's a good business opportunity. I can't advocate it on libertarian grounds, but just saying.
I'd invest.
This is a basis for my muckraking, for which Dr. Rothbard commends me. On the whole, I find the same lack of black colored glasses in him, I hasten to add. And what personal experience or academic study leads Rothbard to conclude that pre-libertarian counter-economists do just fine without agorists to cheer them on and free them from guilt? My personal experience leads me to precisely the opposite conclusion, and I have the contributions and letters of gratitude to prove it. And I actually kind of agree with that. Even me, before I got into agorism, even as a libertarian, not that I was like racked with guilt, but there was one portion of my brain that was like, if I'm doing something illegal, or there's this weird like it's almost like there's this moral tinge to it. If you, even though it's not, I knew rationally it wasn't, but then like agorism kind of like, once you get on board with that, you're like, no, I don't give a shit.
That's the key, I think. Like, yeah. I never gave a shit about the law, but like in my younger days, I never cared about the law, but I was more like invigorated when I learned there was a theory that to go with what I was up to anyway. Like once I learned that like what I was doing was justified, it was off to the races,
Yeah. And also, like, I guess it wasn't even necessarily a moral thing. There also was some aspect that, like, if I ever got caught doing something illegal, it would almost be like the end of the world. But then when you go get a more rational view of the world, you're like, okay, well, there's more nuance to that. Yes, if I get caught killing a dude, might be an issue. Now, if I get caught, I don't know, hiding $1,000 in taxes from the U.S. government, I mean, okay, well, they're just gonna be like, give us our fucking money. I'm like, okay, you caught me.
See again, but this goes back to like like risk tolerance that Konkin's always talked about. You have kids and a family and shit. You have a lower risk tolerance. I can do 3 months in county, and it's just like a spiritual retreat for me. It's just an opportunity to radicalize my fellow inmates. So
Yeah, but it was just like the stigma that even if it was just something little like that, like, oh my god, you cheated on your taxes, like what? Like you're having to deal with the IRS? Like, oh my god! And you're like, I don't know. Now you're like, yeah, it'd be a hassle, but like whatever, I'll deal with it.
Now you're like, I was like, oh man, I went to jail for not paying my taxes. It's like, dude, it's nice to meet you. It's like, can I buy you a beer? Like, I really respect you.
Yeah. In short, whatever plant the good doctor is describing in contradistinction to my counter economy surely is not Earth. Rothbard's statement that violent revolution, what other kind is there against the ruling class? Would you like to mention an establishment that has stepped down peacefully? Has never succeeded in history, distorts either the language or history. Although, I mean, there's so many words. I will say to Rothbard and to Konkin's point, there's so many words in that statement that depending on how you define any single word can change what you mean here.
Right.
Because, like, what do you mean by succeed? Like, what do you mean by violent revolution?
Violent, yeah. Right. That's what I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So either he is saying that no revolution has been libertarian enough to triumph without its contradictions bringing it down. True, but then irrelevant to bring it up as precedent. Or he is saying that no group overthrew a ruling class that used democratic means of oppression. The latter is not only false, but a direct reversal of history. Nearly all somewhat successful revolutions in recent history have overthrown precisely democratic trappings. American revolutionaries versus democratic British imperialists. Jacobin revolutionaries versus a bourgeois ensemble. Liberal revolutionaries against the Tsar's Duma. And the Bolshevik Revolution against the liberals and the Social Democrats. The Phalange against the Spanish Republic. Peron's shirtless ones against the Argentine Parliament. The National Liberation Front of Vietnam versus South Vietnamese Parliament, or at least until near the end. The popular overthrow of Allende's democratically elected regime, and the recent overthrow of the democratically elected but right-wing president of El Salvador by a centrist popular junta. This list is not exhaustive. A claim that violent revolution has only succeeded in democratic countries with free elections would be nearer the mark and is often used by Latin American militaries as justification for preventive coups. All of the above revolutionary groups have their credentials open to the libertarian question, to be sure, but who has not so far? To close up this side issue, either Rothbard is saying that all violent overthrows of states were not revolutions because they were not libertarian, in which case a libertarian case is untried, or he's historically wrong. Rothbard has a chutzpah to demand that I separate libertarianism from counter-economists because the latter don't need it, and then turn around and ask why the Russian counter-economists have not condensed into agoras. Are you ready to say something, or was that just a...
No.
Human action is willed action. Without entrepreneurs of libertarianism, it will not be sold. I like that. Human action is willed action. Yeah, it's
so true though. Like without entrepreneurs to sell it,
yeah,
it would never have happened. It like think about Ron Paul might have gotten some steam in like 2008 and 2012. He might have peaked, like interest might have peaked, but you never would have had this continuing movement if you didn't have entrepreneurs like Tom Woods making podcasts for us to learn from, and people writing books like Bob Murphy and Herb Island, and like guys like you having podcasts, and I'm selling 3D printers, and this guy's doing that. It's like it's the entrepreneurship that keeps the ball moving. And that's what Konkin's saying here, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I don't know, I just like the idea that. Well, I also think he's getting at the point of that, like the idea that I guess kind of plays with his entrepreneurial points a little bit too. It's the idea that you need to will it, like it needs to be something that we kind of foster. You can't just be like, oh, here's this theory, ta-da. Like, I mean, obviously people say like we're going the political route and that's their willed action, but it's like, okay, well, there's a little, you need to have more to it than that, than just this one centralized. Like, even if you are to accept the political aspect side of it, like the very least you should additionally be like, also be doing this on the individual level.
Right.
So like, I don't know.
And critics have a hard time. Whenever I bring that up to them, they have a hard time understand. That's a really difficult concept for them to grasp somehow.
Yeah.
Like it's very binary to the average critic.
Yeah. Even so, my estimation of the Soviet scene matches that of several Russian dissidents that Russia is a powder keg waiting to go up. The Polish situation, of course, fits the Agorist paradigm perfectly, right down to counter-economic workers being co-opted by the party arc like Solidarity Union. Rothbard thus fails to make any substantive case against counter-economics and hence against Agorist strategy. He shoots at peripherals and warps either language or history to make his case. Still, our disagreement seems to me to be largely one of misunderstanding, and misunderstanding of verifiable facts, not speculative theory. This is hardly surprising since, to my knowledge, we share the same premises and analytic methods. Considering that I adopted mine from his is even less surprising. Yes, I want to stress that last couple sentences there, because that's one thing people give Konkin and agorism shit for all the time. And it's like people don't realize that it's literally based in Austrian economics. Like these are all of these, like you may not like where his logic ended up or disagree with where his logic ended up. At the very least, you need to realize that it's rooted in the same place that you guys are coming from. Because a lot of people like
that also like
this is commie bullshit or something. You're like, dude, this is like ANCAP as fuck.
but I think he said somewhere that we're more Rothbardian than Rothbard. But this is also like, not only do the people on the right think that we're leftists, but the people on the left get this confused too. You see, because there's like a class theory that's in a couple ways sympathetic to Marx's class theory. We get sort of lumped in with them.
Then again, so was Hoppe, but yeah, but go on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But like that's one of the sort of myths I try to dispel in anti-politics, or at least not dispel, but explain where that comes from.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess I can get it some ways. I mean, Konkin was like a fat science fiction writer, so I can see how people make their assumptions.
well, no, dude, it's like anarchism started as a leftist philosophy. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but like also like leftist anarchism, but they don't believe in politics. So like that's why agorism really fits this line of thinking historically.
Rothbard's critique of new libertarianism seems to rest on seeing tips of icebergs and dismissing the vast bases. That's a good way to put it. He sees only the 1% of the economy thought of as black market and not the 20 to 40% of the economy that the IRS sees as underground, and double that for the rest of the counter economy that the IRS ignores as irrelevant to taxation. It takes a libertarian educated by Rothbard and others to perceive a common characteristic and sum up the anti-status whole. I do think that's an important point he makes there. And I don't think these stats line up anymore. I'm sure they've changed to some extent, whether more or less. But yeah, that was something he did mention earlier in the book, that 20 to 40% of the economy is seen as underground, and by that, like entirely black. I mean, I'm sure maybe some red. I mean, I'm sure you could say some red, but
I wouldn't be surprised if it's even bigger nowadays.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I was reading an article. They said that like over $50 billion in cryptocurrency remains like untaxed, and the IRS is like flipping a shit because of it.
Yeah.
And I just think about how many other places that's also how many other economic sectors that's also occurring in.
Yeah, and then even then, like I always make the point that's not a binary. So that's the 20 to 40% is literally the entirely black market. So, and he says double that for like basically like gray. So like, shades of gray throughout. So if anything, the minority in the economy is the white market. Like the white market is the aberration here that they're trying to make,
right.
like that the state is almost trying to
Exactly.
convince you is the norm. Like it's like, no, it's not. And the same can be said of Rothbard's view of my activities and hundreds of other new libertarian allies around the world. The small but warranted attention we pay to his few deviations seem prominent to him, and understandably so. The somewhat larger amount of public criticism we have of the LP and other activities that interest him most, whether in our publications or at public forums, is what interests him and hence remains foremost in his attention. He has never met the 10,000 people that I conservatively estimate have called themselves libertarians after primary or secondary contact with me and my hardcore allies, and so they are invisible to him. The network of counter-economic businesses that we are painstakingly nurturing and the millions of dollars cumulatively exchanged invisibly are likewise understandably invisible to him as well. I, for one, see no real barrier to reconvergence, regroupment, as the Marxists would say, between Rothbard and his sane, sober, anarchist center and us ultra-left deviationists. There's that left again. But once again, I always like to stress he meant left in like a not utilizing political paradigm.
That's what Rothbard, I think that he's using Rothbard's words against us.
Yeah.
I think Rothbard called us ultra-left deviationists.
Yeah.
And which is a charge we're still dealing with today, which is
yes.
ironic because I actually consider them to be the left of us, but that's a different story.
Rothbard's remaining criticism is really not that germane to the manifesto itself, though it makes up the majority of his article. Yet in some ways is the most telling criticism of me personally, in that it vitiates as a compliment to my writing ability when I most obviously failed to communicate effectively. I like that. I don't know why. I mean, that's just smart writing right there. He's like, you called me a good writer, but obviously I'm a shitty writer because you're really smart and didn't seem to fucking get what I'm saying. It obviously got lost in transmission. Most of his, it's like a weird, like, what's it called when you like neg yourself? What's it called? Self-deprecating, but also like shitting on him at the same time. That was like masterfully done. Most of his criticisms of me are misreadings in the latter part, and I will but list and deny them where urgent. Of course, the party question is another problem entirely. New libertarianism does have an organizational preference. Other forms of organization might then be considered non-new libertarian, but not necessarily unlibertarian or even non-agorist. What the new libertarian strategy seeks is to optimize action leading to a new libertarian society as quickly and as cleanly as possible. Activities that lead to authoritarian dependency and passive acceptance of the state are suboptimal and frowned upon. I like that, suboptimal, which is a good way to put it, because because that's one thing when it comes to, like, talking about people who engage in political action. It's like we may not necessarily, like, yeah, sure, maybe there are examples where you do something that's, sure, you can make a case is good. It's just overall it's suboptimal. But
this is like the lesser of evils argument that the NCAPs give you. It's like you have candidate A and candidate B, and candidate A is more benevolent than candidate B. So why wouldn't you support candidate A? And my response has always been, it's fine to say that one candidate is preferable to another candidate, but neither are acceptable. The only acceptable option is my freedom.
Yep. And he goes, action that is individualistic, entrepreneurial, and market organized are seen as optimal. And I will agree with that. And I honestly don't see how anyone would disagree with that. And I know it's like in today's age, decentralized or centralized are almost like these, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just these terms that are overused or whatever. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of true, but there is something to the fact of, if you're dealing with, this huge behemoth of the state or whatever you want to call it, the monster that is the state, the idea that we're going to centralize and we're going to defeat it is kind of silly. If anything, our power is kind of our individualism. That's not to say we can't work in groups or networks, but it's a different type of network. It's to bring it to like cryptocurrency. It's like the difference between nodes, or there's just like one clump of something. Like it's almost like a hive or a series of it's like when you see like ant colonies that go for like, they have ones that go for like, I think ones that go for like miles in some countries, where it's like there's just networks. It's like good luck fucking with them. Like,
yeah, right.
Like,
Well, it's like we were saying before we went on how, or maybe we were on, I don't remember, but like how, like in the agorism you work together, and in politics like you have to work against one another, and that's how you define success in both of those realms. And like obviously, you know, you and I think, or at least I think, that any sort of political participation sort of almost like lends credence to the institution. Like even if I think the LP sucks, but all right, I'm still going to donate my money and show up to the events, I am legitimizing them. I'm helping them. I'm making them seem like a legitimate party, because now they can say, hey, here's another member who's willing to donate his time and energy and resources. We're a real thing. That prolongs the suffering. That's why, like, I posted a meme earlier about like your obedience is prolonging this nightmare. So many people from the LP like to tweet, and I don't want to say shit, but it's like, you're the ones being obedient who are prolonging this shit.
Yeah, there is definitely something to the idea, because people do like to make it this like you know, it's funny because we always make we're so common to make fun of duopoly, but they like to make it this like state versus us, and that is true. But it's like, okay, but you're gonna play their game and go head to head, or just it'd be like, well, I'm just gonna go do something else. Like, why would I play your fucking game? This is a game you made, and you've completely set all the rules and all the terms and everything about it. Like, I'm not saying there aren't, like, sure, you could make some argument that there are benefits in some certain niche ways, but overall, it's like this thing was literally constructed for you to know. It's like, it's almost like playing one of those carnival games. You're like, dude, this shit is like I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a carnival and be some like strength test or some shit. My wife would be like, oh, go do it. You're so big and strong. I'm like, okay, but I'm also not retarded. Like, I'm just gonna lose my money.
Right.
Like this is made to play on the ego of buff dudes. Like, this is what this is for. Like, this is clearly made for them to make money. Like, this is not here for me to show off to you.
But it's like where he says that, he goes, activities that lead to authoritarian dependency, blah blah blah, should be frowned upon. Think about what like political participation teaches you. It teaches you like parliamentary rules and procedures, and like how to like follow the leader and to fall in line with other like-minded folks. Whereas agorism teaches you the opposite. It teaches you to innovate and to like be creative and to look for ways to bring value to others. Like, which would you rather learn, right? Would you rather would you rather glean that authoritarian dependency? That's what it is, right? That's what, if you're dedicating your life to the rules of Robert's, to learning Robert's rules of order, that's authoritarianism. If you're on the other hand, if you're dedicating your life to creating and building products that others value, that's a much more noble pursuit, in my opinion. It doesn't even make sense how anyone could think otherwise.
Yeah. With that constantly the reader's awareness, it is obvious that there are no moral questions other than individual self-worth involved in organization and hierarchy. My lumping them all together that Rothbard decries might be considered integration of concepts by others. It says that no moral questions involved in organization and hierarchy. Okay, yeah.
He's basically saying what we tell people every day, right? Yeah. Everybody who complains to agorists don't believe in hierarchy. And Per Byland has really said this the best. It's like, it's not that we don't believe in hierarchy. It's like, if you want to voluntarily form a hierarchy or voluntarily join a hierarchy, that's great. God bless. Have fun.
Yeah, I'm in a family. There's a hierarchy here. Like.
Right. Right. What we're saying, though, is
there's
that
a hierarchy amongst a group of friends, like even in a social hierarchy, whether you want to admit it or not. But yeah, go on.
Right. But like in the market, in a free market economy, the opportunities would be so much more vast, and the playing field would be much more level and horizontal. It wouldn't be this vertical, like the political leader up top and maybe some can trickle down to us. Everybody would have more opportunities. It would be a much less hierarchical society. It'd be much less tiered, like by class.
Yeah,
that's the whole point of agorism.
It's weird too, because these people that will decry agorism as being anti-hierarchical, well, I will then explain. Like, you'll talk to them and you'll be like, okay. Like, obviously, here's my thing. If you're ever in any sort of society that egalitarianism is the goal, then you're not going to have egalitarianism. If anything, it's this weird quandary where you get the opposite. Like the more you try to get egalitarianism, the less you get of it. But now if you have anarchy, a free society, free market, and Capistan, whatever, you can get them to agree. But there would be more of it. It'd be more egalitarian, right? Like, yeah, right. Like, right. Right? Like, it's like we're not making egalitarianism the goal here in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying we're just describing a natural byproduct of what will happen in this situation.
Yeah, but like their definition of egalitarianism is not our definition of like I think Tom Sowell said it best. Like there's like equality only exists in terms of opportunity. Like that's it. Like, you can only give people you can only make them equal in opportunity. You can't make them equal in outcome. You and I can have the same opportunities in life to succeed, but we're not going to have the same outcomes because it's going to depend on circumstances and who works harder and at what and who gets lucky and what shit happens to who. Like it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Nowhere have I ever opposed joint stock companies. After I penned NLM, I set up precisely that to own New Libertarian Magazine.
So hold on. So I'm sorry, but like this is funny to me because, and I think we said this in the last one. Yeah. Rothbard, I mean, Konkin has specifically advocated for, and he might go into this. He might be saying this in a second, but like, he has specifically said, if you ever have a successful entrepreneurial venture that grows and grows and grows, don't form a corporation. Because that's not consistent with the non-aggression principle. Why? Because it exists by state charter and they receive special benefits. That's why agorists don't like corporations. ANCAPs don't like that we don't like corporations. They must have a thing for these state-created corporations that receive privileges from the government and politicians. In reality, they're probably just naive as to what the technical definition of corporation is. But Konkin says, instead of that, don't worry. You can still form a joint stock company, which is a NAP-friendly or an agorist-friendly alternative to the corporation. This is where everyone files involuntarily, and it's a much more non-violent way to like organize like a successful business. But it was just weird to me that Rothbard said that in the first place.
I will say though, I think in the past few years, a lot of ANCAPs have really turned heel on the corporation stance and have seen the error of their ways. But like 2020 and onwards has really been good at opening people's eyes in that regard. And
I know, but they still don't like. For some reason, they it's hard. Like a lot of the people who are attacking corporations are right libertarians because it's a cultural thing. It's a social thing. Fine, have at it. God bless. But like understand that this is a failure of your philosophy, right? Understand that this is a major failure. You know what I mean? Like,
you're right.
They don't put that together.
As soon as you said that, like there's one thing a while ago, I don't remember what the topic of the day was, but it was a common talking point for a while amongst multiple people. And they were talking about in relation to corporations something, and they were basically like, well, we're not okay with this. And it might have been one of the DeSantis things or something to do with corporations. I don't know. But a lot of people were like, being like, well, I don't know. Like, I'm not really a fan of, and I kept pointing out, I'm like, okay, well, the reason, and they would say like, well, maybe we should just not be, I mean, like we can't always be principled, or I forget what the comment, there was like a talking point going around.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah. And it's like, or maybe you're not thinking correctly about your principles because corporations are a product of the state. Like, and this is what I always try to tell people that like, if you're thinking of public and private in terms of binary, you're kind of fucking up because like corporations, like, I mean, maybe it's not appropriate to call them entirely the state, but they're also not free market. Like, so
not even close.
Yeah. And once you start realizing that and thinking in that way, then you realize, oh wait, no, I can just think about this differently and more nuanced, and I don't have to have this weird thing where I just go like, well, we can't always be principled, like, or maybe sometimes our principles have to take a back seat or whatever the common talking point was at the time. It's like, or maybe your principles are off in some way. You need to rethink them because principles are supposed to be these things that allow you to navigate the world. And if they don't, then you're fucking up. You need new principles or to think about your current ones differently.
Or maybe you're misapplying them somehow. Yes. But like that's not the narrative that the state wants us to have. They want us to be like, it has to be this emotional thing. And notice how there's always children and pedos involved. So they want to get you riled up, and it's always this like really emotional experience, and it's right versus left. And it goes back to, I mean, historically, it goes back way back to like the origins of like the Civil War and like the Puritan influence in the North and the Yankees, and the Southern culture of like freedom and like independence and liberty. And it's just this culture of war continues to this very day. America's been dealing with it since its founding, and it shows no signs of letting up. It's only ramping up.
Yeah. Junkie Jeff said it best in his thing. He mentioned public-private partnerships. Like, think about how many times you hear that now.
Yeah.
Like, think about what that means for a moment. Like,
I know. It's insane to me.
Yeah. All right. I've never suggested floating affinity groups. Should Dr. Rothbard set up a general libertarian alliance that runs no candidates, engages in no statism, I will take out 100-year membership immediately. I urge him to call me out on this point. I see fewer problems in organization than does Rothbard, and can easily see some organizations not having any. There is a bit of irony in Rothbard's spirited defense of the Kochtopus. Oh, we're going to get the good stuff now. Where Rothbard got really fucking cringe there at the end of his critique, where he was going on about the LP. Since his own defection, but I'll let that pass. I have to mention his secession from and opposition to it, because that effectively ends my major objection to it, and I find it relatively harmless, and conceivably needing my defense in the near future as the chorus of opposition swells. To the extent that my early attacks are responsible for the demonopolization of the movement, I am thankful. Well, this is his own defection. Oh, that's weird. That's kind of interesting little historical context here. It sounds to me like he's saying in the period of time between when Rothbard wrote his response and when he did his, that's around the time that Rothbard kind of kicked the bucket of the Kochtopus, essentially. I don't know specifically what it is in that run. So it's kind of funny. A large portion of what Rothbard was probably going on does not even apply now at this point. So
silly.
Like, and I say in this point, by the time Konkin is writing this, so he's already heel turned. I mean, I don't know how much time is between each. I guess I can look real quick. Because he didn't have a date on this one. Well, that fucks it up. But yeah. No, that's interesting. That's a little interesting historical context there. So maybe he won't go too much into it, because maybe he's going to be nice and be like, I'm not going to beat you over the head of something you already clearly saw the error of. Yeah, so to the extent that my early attacks are responsible for the demonopolization of the movement, I am thankful. So he's kind of taking a little bit of a he wasn't entirely gracious. He was more like, all right, he took a little bit of credit for it.
Well, no, it's just like he's throwing Rothbard's words back at him. He's like, if I'm the guy who was able to sort of break up the Kochtopus, then God bless.
Yeah. For the record, my aim in drawing attention to the monocentrism around Koch's money as spectacularly as I did was a warning. Too many neolibertarians think that only taking money from the state leads to dependency and control. True, it is not immoral in a libertarian sense to become a billionaire's kept writer or lap activist, but it hardly serves a movement's image or substance, and hence is un-new libertarian. I knew the rest of the left would attack libertarians for being a plutocrat's tool, as Mother Jones eventually did, and took action to show the existence of diversity and independence. Offhand, I'd say it worked. I agree with all of Rothbard's defense of millionaire libertarians, and have a few, not multimillionaires to be sure, in alliance with me. His solution to increase competition in the movement is and was my solution. I doubt that having Koch compete with himself is a viable answer, though. Even Rothbard seems hesitant about suggesting it.
It's like Rothbard wrote Monopoly Theory. What is he doing right now?
My being unfair to Charles Koch requires a bit of semantic care. I have never implied that Charles Koch personally was motivated to do anything. Anybody who threw millions into the movement with a bit of judgment and buying up institutions would have produced the same results. I'll take Rothbard and Lafaire's, who know him personally, word that Koch is a great guy. May he profit richly and evade the state forever, but may he never buy another politician.
It's like, why is this hard? I don't even get it at this point.
Yeah. And may he contribute to his heart's content to any libertarian or libertarian organization, save the LP. Gee, what a great movement when a poor activist such as I can be so generous to an oil billionaire.
Oh
He's
man.
kind of being a little dickish, but it's kind of funny. Yeah, I mean that was one point I think we brought up multiple times that like he's literally like all the shit Rothbard was throwing at him was like okay, but none of that is none of that shit is shit Konkin said. He literally is saying in this specific example of this already incredibly centralized entity that is essentially engaging with the state in one way, shape, or form, in their game. And then you also additionally have one extremely wealthy person basically controlling everything to some extent. Like, yeah, I mean, like, it's not saying there's anything wrong with billionaires, but like, I mean, we can kind of see the writing on the wall a little bit if you apply a little bit of intelligence. So
it's sad that all these critiques are so heavily fallacious because they became the basis of all of the critiques that still get thrown at us today.
Yeah,
and it's
it
like
is
if
weird.
Rothbard,
yeah, it's true. Yeah,
but it's like if Rothbard didn't make those logical errors and he saw the value of agorism counter economics, it's like where would we be today? Maybe there wouldn't be any end caps. Maybe it would just be a vast agorist movement, and we would be like light years ahead of where we are today. We would have had Bitcoin in like 2001. I don't know. It's one of those what if questions you'll never know the answer to.
Yeah.
But
I mean, on the other hand, maybe he also would have gotten less if Rothbard hadn't been as hip to the whole political, because even when he left the LP, he went the paleo route. So maybe he would have been less of a notable historical figure had he gone that route too. So maybe it wouldn't have made that much of a difference. I don't know. What if? So it can be crazy. But I'll go further than Rothbard in my willing recognition of the positive personal characteristics of the Coctopus. Roy Childs may be cranky and unforgiving at times, but he's a fun, erudite person with superior taste. No more deviationist than Dr. Rothbard. Jeff Riggenbach remains a friend, associate, and sometimes ally.
just died.
Yeah.
Just passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah, didn't he do isn't Riggenbach the guy who did a ton of like audiobooks and stuff?
Oh yeah, he's the guy who narrates Anatomy of the State, that amazing narration that we all love from Mises. That's him.
Jeff Riggenbach remains a friend, associate, and sometime ally, even working full-time for Koch's Libertarian Review. Joan Kennedy Taylor, Victoria Varga, Milton Mueller. Who did I leave out? I've had nothing but enjoyable contacts with them all. Even Ed Crane is a laugh a minute with a ready handshake and a fast quip, who serves liberty as he sees best for him in the movement. Which, you know what? I got to say, even for myself, not that I think I'm like a Konkin in any way, shape, or form. I mean, if I apply this to modern ways, it's the same thing. I am friends with like damn near all the people. Like maybe friends might be putting it a little bit heavy, but I am for pretty much for especially I have a lot of friends, but then even then some of the notable figures in the party, I'm if not a acquaintance, I'm somewhere between an acquaintance and a friend with almost most of them, if not almost all of them. So even
Sarwalk, huh?
No, not Starlock. I'm talking about like the modern one. Specifically
the good ones.
Yeah, the good ones. Because I do think they're good.
Like, I think Dave Smith is awesome. I think Michael Heiss is awesome. I think Angela McCardle is awesome. I think Josh Smith is awesome. I think they're all great people. I like them. I also think they all think they're doing the right thing as well. I think we just disagree. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, no, like I and again, not to like sound like a broken record here, but like in agorism, you have to get along with people, because if you don't, then you're gonna fail, right? So like, I'll give you a quick example. This is something I've been working on has been and hopefully it's probably too early to even reveal this, but I've been thinking about putting together like a subscription box service for agorists and libertarian types. And I'm thinking to myself, what can I put in these boxes that people, yeah, right, just dope, but like dope and guns. I'd sign up for that. But no, like in all seriousness, like I can turn to all these different libertarians and be like, hey, what products do you guys have that people would be interested in? And it's like I don't know if you saw this like fight between I don't know, just pick any fight between two libertarians. I need to be able to go to both of them and say, hey, I got this thing going on. Like, what products of yours can I buy, that are going to fit into this box and that would appeal to libertarians? I don't care about the infighting because I have a product to sell. I'm trying to bring a product to market. I can give two shits less who called who, what name on Twitter. Like, that doesn't even come into play in agorism. That's how entrepreneurship drives us to spread the message. Like, that's how it's supposed to work.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good idea. I I mean, definitely, you should probably definitely hit up TopLobsta because he's definitely would be good for something.
He's one of the ones I was thinking about, and like that's the example in my head. But I didn't want to bring up the drama with him and Jack Lloyd. But I was thinking to myself, like before they even got into a fight, I was thinking to myself, man, TopLobsta has some great shit I can include. Hey, maybe I could throw Jack Lloyd's book into one box, but I'm like, I don't even want to like get involved with like the fight between them because I don't want to like spoil my business relationship with either of them.
Yeah,
Not that I have a business relationship. I've worked with Top on some NFT shit before. I've never worked with Jack, but maybe one day I will.
Yeah, I got dragged into that a little bit.
Did you?
Yeah, which I don't even care. I'm like, this is dumb. Honestly, Jack gets on my nerves sometimes, which is weird because I've met Jack in person. He's a great guy. I don't know what his deal is when he gets online, but whatever. We're not going to go to that. May none of us ever sink to ad hominem. Finally, the Libertarian Party. Rothbard says he will assume for the moment that a libertarian political party is not evil per se. I wonder how open he would be to assuming the state is not evil per se and then continuing discussion of some legislation. Let us see where it leads him. It seems to lead to the wonder of repeal of laws. Rothbard's historical acumen seems to have failed him again. Since when did the state repeal anything from the Corn Laws to suburban property tax unless it had lost the authority to maintain that law? Yeah. First comes
note the just real quick example, the legalization of marijuana. It only occurred because of mass nonviolent civil disobedience, mass non-compliance with the law. Yeah. The state had actually started to lose credibility because they had this law on the books which they couldn't enforce. Yeah. So eventually they had to bring the law into compliance with public opinion, not vice versa. And that's how agorism works.
Yeah, and then the inverse holds true too. Like, I mean, not entirely true, because obviously when a state enters crazy authoritarian places, that's when it doesn't hold true to this. But on the inverse of that too, most laws don't go into place until it's like something that's already kind of like, the best example is child labor. By the time they made child labor laws, it was like kids weren't really working in the coal mines as much. It wasn't really a thing. It was kind of like, and then they get to go, oh, look, we got rid of it. And you're like, yeah, well, no one was really doing that anymore. So cool, I guess.
Good job, asshole.
Yeah, and even then, the ones that were, it was probably because they really fucking needed to. But
exactly, and now they're starving.
Yeah. First comes counter-economic scofflawing, then massive civil disobedience, and then the threat of insurrection, and only then repeal. No, I don't agree with LaFair that it's immoral to repeal the draft, assuming LaFair would say precisely that, but it is immoral to support politicians to oppress us because they might relieve one oppression.
So Bob LaFave thought that like you couldn't even repeal bad laws. Like he wanted nothing to do with them whatsoever. And Bob LaFave's whole idea was, no, fuck you, I'm not complying. I want anything to do with your government. Just fuck you, leave me alone. And they'd be like, all right, well, do you want to support us? We're gonna make murder illegal. He'd be like, fuck you, I don't want anything to do with your government. Leave me alone. Which I do have some respect for.
Yeah,
I don't agree with it, but I do respect it.
Yeah, I mean, I probably to some extent sort of kind of maybe a little bit kind of are sympathetic or agree, but yeah, to say it's like a moral, like that's kind of silly.
Like in a pacifist way. Like Bob LaFave was like I don't want to. He wouldn't engage in with government because even that was violence. Like even that required enforcement, and he wouldn't. He was like Tolstoy. He wouldn't engage in violence for anything.
For all the money, time, and energy that needs to go into electing a politician good or on one or a few issues, how many people could be directly freed and their risk of apprehension reduced in tax evasion, draft evasion, regulation evasion, and so on? Which is one point I bring up. I bring up.
Oh my god!
Because it's
constantly.
It's like, yes, sure, theoretically, you could get this one guy, and he really, says everything you want to say, and it's super awesome, and blah blah. But it's like, all right, but it's like the sunken cost thing. Like, how much time and effort and everything went into that, and like, how could it be used elsewhere? Like, I mean,
when you are an agorist and you get one of these ANCAPs who's like, hey, why not both? Or one of these LP types, hey, why not both? Why can't you vote and also take part in counter economics? This is your go-to right here. It's simply because, just to paraphrase what he just said, what you just read, we do not have the luxury of wasting precious limited resources that the liberty movement has on unproductive ends like politics. right? We need all the help we can get in cryptocurrency and 3D printing and black market businesses and entrepreneurship. Like, promote that shit. Don't promote your favorite, candidate for, I don't know, like treasurer of the Libertarian Party. Don't put your time and resources and energy into something like that. It's just a waste.
And even then, even just specifically looking at voting by itself on an individual level, like, I know in modern terms it's probably not that difficult to go vote, but even if it takes 20 fucking minutes, you literally could probably mathematically break it down that whatever, even if you're going to take a nap, that probably has more value than whatever conceived input you think your one vote out of millions made or whatever.
I would go so far as to say, if you were going to get robbed at gunpoint of thousands and thousands of dollars, let's say you're going to get robbed at gunpoint for 10 grand, it still would be less self-destructive than going to that voting booth and pulling the lever, because the politician you're voting for is going to be robbing you for a hell of a lot more than what the guy in the street is.
All right, well, I disagree with that one. I'd rather vote than get 10,000 taken from me, but especially because I know how little my vote fucking matters. So.
Like, take your pick. You want like Joe Biden or friggin' MS-13?
Well, I mean, but my point was the mathematical aspect of it. That like, even if no matter who you vote for, that the statistical like chance
you're getting robbed either way,
that your vote makes a fucking difference. Right. Like, it's like. No, like even if it takes me like 5 minutes, it's probably not even worth even if you could make the case that the person you're going to vote for, even if you can make a strong case, is going to do X, Y, and Z or whatever the fuck, something amazing. It's still like, okay, but there's the chances that your one vote's going to make a difference.
It doesn't. It won't make a difference in swaying. It's unlikely that it would make a difference in swaying like the outcome, but it does make a difference in the sense that, like we said earlier, it legitimizes the whole process. It legitimizes the whole corrupt institution. So in that sense, it does matter in like a destructive sort of way.
Yeah. Nor do you need exhort the evaders to contribute to a noble cause, but simply offer, and some sell this for exorbitant fees, instruction on how to do beat detection and watch them go for it, freeing themselves, not being freed by someone else. Votes are the profits of a political party. A party is an organ of the state whose overt purpose is to vie for control of the state, and whose covert one is to co-opt support to gain the sanction of the victim. The number of votes dictate the number of successfully elected officials and their share of power and plunder, and the number of those still accepting the state's legitimacy and possible usefulness. And yes, I would say this applies even to the LP. Now, a lot of people listening are probably, friendly with the LPMC, and they'll be like, well, their purpose is not to get control of the state. One, I actually think that's partially not true, but even if that was entirely true, it's okay. They're not going to have. There's no way they're going to maintain control of it for that long. And even if they or they're going to maintain that position or maintain their control and hold that position, it's going to subvert back to its express purpose. Like, that is what a political party is. It's eventually going to go back to that. But even then, it would be silly for them not to, because it's like, well, what are we doing here? Are we just making a speaking tour out of this? Like, there's no way that would be a thing. And even then, people, this will go to like local shit and stuff like that. So they are 100% trying to gain control of the state. I mean, yes, they would make the case you're doing it to do what you want, but then now we get in this weird quandary of like, but are they really going to do what you want in every single place? And like, is this really, or is this setting up an infrastructure that's likely to be corrupted and end up with a bunch of Reason and Cato faggots? Like,
and there's also, I don't know. It's of course, like, obviously, if someone was like, hey, you want the White House? They're going to be like, yeah, like, absolutely I want the White House. This is what I've been going for forever. Thank you so much. So, like, obviously it's bullshit that they don't want political power. And the fact that they say, oh no, it's about spreading the message, right? And we've spoken about this, like, the whole masquerading of the Libertarian Party as an educational institution is just a crock of shit. Like, it's just a joke.
Yeah, it is.
For a whole number of reasons.
Did
like,
you
if
watch,
you're going to start, go ahead.
Did you watch that? God, I forget. It was David Bett or something. It was some podcast, like a big podcast. I don't know if you watched it. It was like 3 or 4 hours long. It had like Spike Cohen, Dave Smith, Larry Sharp, Jessica Vaughn, and they were just all talking about libertarian stuff. And it was actually a really good podcast. They touched on a lot of good stuff, but then it was very common theme throughout that it really, there was a lot of talk of like, well, we need to build an infrastructure. We need to do this. We need to do that. And it was all the bureaucratic stuff. And I was like, well, this is all that stuff. Like you can't divorce the two no matter how much you want. It's going to be there. Like, sure, you may be able to make the case that it's a little bit, it's not, you're like, well, we're taking it over and we'll be the ones running it. But like, okay, but are you going to be the ones running it forever? And even then, I don't know if I really trust you guys that much. So,
but like, it's like, think, but okay, we need to build infrastructure is what they're saying, right? Think about where the infrastructure is that exists. Like, who's building it? It's agorists. Yeah. Who's building the financial infrastructure for tomorrow, right? It's the cryptocurrency enthusiasts. It's guys like Roger Ver and CZ from Binance and people who are creating services for cryptocurrency. And like, who's building the infrastructure for all these different industries are the entrepreneurs. It's not happening in politics. They already have an existing political infrastructure. And I know a lot of these people are wonderful people, but these bureaucrats are earning a living by doing this, literally off the backs of LP donors. This is where the money's going. It's going to keep them from a 9-to-5 job. They can't be entrepreneurs because they're just not productive. So the only way that they can gain this money is sort of like, it's like parasitism off of these I call them victims or members of the Libertarian Party. It's terrible, honestly. And I know that if they're good people, and I don't want to say anything bad about them, but that's the nature of politics. Unfortunately, doesn't matter. You could be Mother Teresa, and that's going to be true.
Yeah, Crane and the Clark campaign were only acting in accordance with their nature qua party arc. As Frank Chodoroff might have said, the way to get rid of sellouts in LP jobs is to get rid of LP jobs.
Yeah, that's a tweet.
Let's take and you know, it's part of what my main point is. Like, I do think over time, like, I do think the LPMC guys are almost entirely, awesome people. And like, I do think over time, either some of them will start caving to the bullshit that the incentives push for, and then some will just leave because they'll be like, I don't want any part of this. And then over time, you just end up with the same bullshit we had before. Like, the problem that I have is that, like, okay, cool. You're like, oh, well, we tried, cool, like whatever, we did our thing. You're like, okay, but yeah, you built it up. Like whereas it was this irrelevant thing we made fun of. Like and they're like, well, they're called libertarian. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I would rather prominent people and most of us get to the point to where we ridicule the LP. So then when people are like, it becomes a common known thing, like, yeah, libertarians don't like the Libertarian Party. So I don't know what you're talking about.
We're getting there. Honestly, memes have been effective in promoting that belief. Yeah. Majorly effective.
And I get that belief too, but it's like people then people say that, and then it's like it's almost like this implied assumption that you're supposed to be like, okay, well then I guess we should take it over then. I'm like, or the exact opposite.
Right. No, it's like, it'd be like saying, man, I hate cancer. It's like, you know what? We gotta give me some cancer so I can figure this out. It's like, no, dude, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously that's not the best, because the idea is it's called the Libertarian Party. And that's why a lot of people have changed to like voluntarist or other different terms, which, I mean, I don't know. I don't really care with a term game, like whatever. In the day, I think it should just be
I'm not
ridicule them and just, if someone's like, oh, you're libertarian, do you vote libertarian? I'm like, no, they're fucking retarded. But
I identify as a libertarian, but not as like a Libertarian Party member. If anybody ever asks me, of course I'm going to tell them to stay away from them.
Yeah, but if anything, like this move builds the association more. So when they're gay in a decade from now all over again, and it's like Sarwarks and whatever reason types running it, then now if anything, people are going to associate us with it more now because of this experiment.
I know. And it happens all the time. It happened in cryptocurrency. Look at how the Bitcoin narrative has been upended. Like the Tea Party narrative has been upended. It doesn't stop. It's the state's greatest tool is controlling the narrative and framing that debate.
Mm-hmm. Let's take up those political parties Rothbard now finds admirable. It is clear that Democrats were not so lovable and conceived in liberty when, as Jefferson Republicans, they fought the Anti-Federalists and co-opted opposition to the Constitution. Did Jackson, the agent of nullifications, defeat Van Buren, the archetype of boss politics, Polk, the anti-Mexican imperialist, or Pierce and Buchanan, the defenders of slavery, redeem this tainted beginning? And the British liberals were...
he just blew through like such a vast amount of American history right there. But we can spend the whole podcast just in that sentence. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And the British liberals were condemned by Rothbard for leading liberty advocates into defense of empire and world war. Nor did the moderate minarchists of the time, let alone the many anarchists even then, have any use for Democrats or liberals. Those minarchist reformers were then in the Free Soil Party in the U.S. and the Philosophic Radical Party in Britain, respectively. It would be gauche of me to remind Dr. Rothbard just who invented the Radical Caucus and then discarded it when it served nothing but objectively counter-revolutionary ends. So I'll pass this section up. A militant and abolitionist LP in control of Congress begs the question, how did it get there? How could it get there? George Smith's scenario seems far more plausible. In fact, the LP will be empowered during the final stages of Agorist revolution to lure away our marginal allies and snare the unwary with libertarian newspeak. All right, that is this phrase, because that is one thing I've said a lot too, is that I'll talk about how I think there's a good chance in the future at one point, and I think we're not there yet, but the LP will likely become one of the either a serious contending third party or one of the main two parties, because it's just this, I don't know, it makes sense that they would pull that way. And I do think I think what is likely to happen, if I was to make a guess on the future right now, and I could be completely wrong. I think the LPMC is going to do everything it says it's going to do. I think likely Dave will probably have a good speaking tour. And I think what will happen is then it'll kind of simmer down. And then over time, you'll have people like Spike Cohen kind of take more prominence, who, I mean, I have my doubts about him. He seems generally nice, but he kind of strikes me as a political chameleon. He'll open the door for more of the Robbie Suave types. And then over time, you end up with the more Reason, Cato, regime libertarians back in place. And I do think the party will stagnate again, but they will have made so many gains off this like great inertia they got from the good libertarians, the people that I genuinely think are good libertarians who got caught up in this fervor. And then once it gets to its height, they kind of either sort of get pushed out or lose interest, and it becomes bullshit all over again. And now you have this larger party that's horseshit and being run by characters that will take your language and your ideology and use it for a cloak for the state, it will cloak status ends with your vernacular is kind of what I was trying to say. So like, yeah, like it's just the same thing. It's like the same thing the Republican Party does now. Like they talk so much in terms of liberty, but if anything, it's almost worse because these people will probably be better at it because they're coming from a better ideology to manipulate, if that makes sense. So.
Woods is law. No matter who you vote for, you get John McCain, right? Yeah. And I think you're right, and this is what Konkin is saying, that eventually one day, I wouldn't be surprised to see some third party, maybe the Libertarian Party, be not gained, but be given national prominence. And like the way that works is it doesn't get national prominence under the leadership of a radical like Dave Smith. That's not going to happen. What happens is the Libertarian Party gains prominence under somebody who's harmless, and then the state implants an individual and says, all right, this person is now a libertarian. And then you get like one of these clowns from Cato, as your presidential candidate, and they say, "Oh, look, we are benevolent. See, look, we are fair. We gave this third party a chance, and they won. Now we're going to be governed by the Libertarian Party for once, finally." But really, it's just another fucking John McCain type that's standing at the podium.
Yeah. The LP will be put in power as soon as the higher circles need it there. I have no doubt that Dr. Rothbard will be the first to notice and denounce the collaboration. Can you imagine slaves on the plantation sitting around voting for masters and spending their energy on campaigning and candidates when they could be heading for the Underground Railway? Surely they would choose it. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, what a great analogy. Go ahead. Sorry.
Surely they would choose the counter-economic alternative. Surely Dr. Rothbard would urge them to do so and not be seduced into remaining on the plantation until the abolitionist slave masters party is elected. Rothbard's characterizing me as a wrecker is truly surprising to me, considering all the libertarian organizations and publications I have built up and supported, more than anyone else save for Dr. Rothbard himself, from Wisconsin to New York to California and nearly every state, province, and country in this globe. Am I supposed to list all the libertarian groups that have not been subjected to moral attacks by me? How about every libertarian supper club in Los Angeles and New York, the Society for Individual Liberty, Society for Libertarian Life, the Old California Libertarian Alliance and Texas Libertarian Alliance, the British Libertarian Alliance, the Future of Freedom Conference, the Southern Libertarian Conference? Oh, this is ridiculous. Yes, I have stopped beating my wife, even if I'm not married. The only things I have wrecked are the wreckers of our once party-free movement, the defense of partyarchy, and the compromise of libertarianism in general. Is Rothbard claiming that he averted his eyes from those leaving the plumb line because they might otherwise do good work? In conclusion, Rothbard and I continue to fight for the same goals and against the same enemies. I hope we will continue to fight in our own ways, reaching those whom others may have missed. And the greatest hope is that we may reduce our time and energy spent on fighting each other in order that we may free up resources to turn against the common enemy. I shall pass up no hand outstretched. If the new libertarians and the Rothbardian centrists must devote some time to our differences, engage in revolutionary dialogue, let it be devoted first to understanding each other as this exchange is intended, and then to resolving those differences. Then let the state and its power elite quake, which I do think is really important, that understanding thing. Because that is the one big thing, is I don't think most people even the vast majority of people who critique agorism and are usually the ones who are the shittiest about it don't understand it whatsoever.
and that, I think that's crystal clear from Rothbard and Konkin's critique. It's clear that Rothbard, like you said, I think you read it. I think you had said that you didn't think he actually read the full thing. I think he read it, but he sort of just breezed through it.
Yeah, I was more giving him an out, like that's a possibility, because I mean maybe he did read that with good intent and he thought he got everything out of it, but I mean, I
think he read it once, like quickly, and he was just like, "Nah, this ain't gonna work," and he was just like, you know what I mean? And it's like, dude, think about it, like relax, take your time, think about it, and he didn't do that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, that's the end of it. We'll be moving into, what would I say the next one? Robert LaFave already closed the book. So it'll be our next one.
Bob LaFave, Return to Babylon.
Yep. All right. And with that, I guess if you want to go ahead and drop your plugs, and we'll do this again soon.
GoreThreads.com, Libertarian Anarchist Apparel. 3D printer go burr, 3 printers and 3D printing supplies. You can, of course, pay with cryptocurrency to avoid KYC payment platforms. The book is Anti-Politics. Check it out on Amazon if you want to play with crypto. Shoot me a DM on social media. We'll work it out. Other than that, I'm on all your social media platforms, Sal the Agorist or at Sally Mayweather. Give me a follow and subscribe. Drop that like button on YouTube for Jose too.
Hell yeah. And yeah, this has been No Way Jose. I'm on YouTube on all the major audio podcatchers, Odyssey. Follow me on Twitter at 2020 No Way Jose. Give me money at patreon.com, just No Way Jose 2020. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Bump me up in the algorithm. I appreciate you coming on again, Sal. It's been fun. We still have a few more left of these, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Junkie Jeff. Yeah. I see you in the chat. You're always here.
Thank you, brother.
I want more people like you to start showing up. But all right, appreciate it. And with that, we are out.